She labored solo in a shadowy workshop, eking out a living with worn gear and toughened palms. That tempestuous evening, when an exhausted driver pulled up, she extended aid without pause, no fee, no bother. She was unaware of his true identity. Weeks afterward, a diesel motor's hum resounded once more, but now it delivered a surprise that left her breathless, overcome by a blessing she never foresaw. Press like and share your location below. Your encouragement fuels more uplifting tales. Now, let's start. Emma Carter's workshop was simple, nothing grand. Just a modest semi-structure off a tranquil road where Maastrichts sped by without pausing. But for Emma, it was her universe. Every screw turned, every motor mended was proof of years of toil and commitment. She possessed a dreary skill, refined over decades with machines and grease. Yet trade was sluggish, the village drowsy, the paths seldom used, and her earnings scarcely met rent and tools. At 35, Emma moved with calm assurance. There was a quiet charm in her motions, a beauty not merely surface level, but rooted in strength and sincerity. Her face, framed by chestnut hair, often tied loosely, and her green eyes shone with resolve. She knew long nights and hard days well, and the storm brewing only deepened the burden on her heart. The rain fell steady, tapping on the roof and glass. Inside the gloomy workshop, shadows swayed over tools strewn on aged racks. Emma cleaned grease from her hands with a cloth and heard far-off headlights nearing, piercing the storm's din. A big rig slowed to a stop just outside. The motor sputtered and quit. A man stepped down, drenched and weary beyond measure. He was older, his lined face telling tales of endless highways. His plaid shirt stuck to him, soaked by the ceaseless downpour. Emma swung the workshop door wide at once. "Come in. Escape the tempest," she urged. The man quietly said his name was Thomas. Emma set to work, flashlight in grip, probing the tricky motor. Hours ticked beyond her faint light as she secured screws, swapped components, and battled time and rain. No help, no advanced gear, just pure talent and fierce resolve. When the motor growled back to life, Thomas seemed eased. He reached for his cash, but Emma halted him. "You seem worn from the road. Just get home," she said gently. Thomas nodded, his thanks deep but silent. He climbed into his truck and vanished into the dark, rain hiding through its rear lights. Emma shut the door, the workshop's calm returning. Worn out, shelling down the frame, hope glowing faintly in her chest despite the trials ahead. The next dawn, Emma woke to a sky still thick with clouds, the air sharp and fresh post-storm. The workshop held a faint scent of oil and damp soil, a smell she knew well. She opened the door and stepped out, her gaze sweeping the empty road. The night's guest was gone, leaving only a vague sense of tanks she couldn't pinpoint. Days rolled on with the usual pace. Minor fixes, worn engines, and a trickle of clients horribly lingered. Emma toiled endlessly, her hands marked by grease, yet her spirit stood firm. She found peace in the routine, the buzz of tools, the scent of tires, the steady pulse of her grit. Yet in still moments, a faint hope glimmered, sparked by the thought of the stranded driver and his quiet thanks. Her neighbors saw the subtle shift. Mrs. Larson, who ran the eatery nearby, stopped by one afternoon with a kind grin and coffee. "You tackled that storm like a master," she said, eyes warm. "Not all would aid a stranger in such weather." Emma shrugged, a slight smile on her lips. "I did what's right. No one should be stuck out there alone." Words spread gently, some passing. Driver spoke of the mechanic who toiled through the storm for no pay. Emma ignored the talk, focused on keeping her shop running daily. One evening, as the sun sank, casting gold and pink across the sky, she sat on the workshop steps, wiping sweat from her face. Her phone pinged, a note from a neighbor. "Look outside." Now, curious, she stood and turned the corner, her breath catching. Parked past the gravel was a huge flatbed trailer, shining in the dim light. It held new gear, a hydraulic jack, a compo tool set, a heavy-duty compressor, all she'd only dreamed of owning. A man in a delivery outfit stood nearby, smiling kindly. "Emma Carter," he called. She nodded, heart racing. "A letter for you," he said, passing a sealed note. Emma's hands shook as she opened it. The words inside welled her eyes. My daughter had a shop like yours, it began. Before illness claimed her, I saw her in you. I couldn't save her place, beauty can aid. Yours, signed, Thomas Reed, retired executive. For the first time in ages, Emma felt the load on her heart ease. Emma stood still, the letter quivering in her grip as the words hit deep. Thomas Reed. The quiet driver she helped that stormy night was more than a passerby. He was a reader executive, a father who lost his daughter to illness and saw in Emma the same drive, the same spirit his daughter once had. His gift was more than gear. It was a lifeline, a fresh start. The delivery man waited as tears rose in Emma's eyes. She swallowed hard and spoke, voice heavy with feeling. Please tell him thanks from my soul's depth. Neighbors began to gather, drawn by the sight of the trailer and the hope in Emma's eyes. Mrs. Larson from the eatery stepped up, her face glowing. Emma, this is amazing. You've earned this. The days after were a whirlwind. Emma's small workshop changed fast. The new jack made big repairs simpler, and top-notch tools shone beside her old wrenches, symbols of a past she'd honor but was ready to move past. The compressor hummed with promise, filling the space with new vigor. Emma paused one evening to view the changes. Her old tools sat by the new, a quiet nod to every struggle and late night. She traced a worn wrench's handle, used for years, a sign of her journey and dreams. Trade gradually grew. Word of the upgraded workshop and its owner spread quickly. A gifted mechanic with a heart as vast as her skill. Drivers stopped not just for fixes but for tales and coffee. The village's calm vibe began to stir, brought alive by Emma's steady spirit and the gift that showed she wasn't alone. One quiet evening, as the sun sank behind hills, Emma stood outside her workshop, eyeing the road. She thought of Thomas Reed, the man who altered everything with one kind act. Sometimes, she saw, the smallest deeds a hand offered in rain, a choice. To take no pay rang louder than years' soft work. Emma wiped a tear and smiled. For the first time in years, the future felt bright. The weeks after were a surge of change. Emma's once quiet workshop buzzed with lifeline purpose. The new gear changed her daily tasks. Fixes that once took hours now ended with speed and precision. She no longer fretted over old tools slowing her. Instead, each wrench turn was surer, bolder. Clients came more often, drawn by talk and the clear hum of a well-outfitted shop. But Bayin tools and trade. What stirred Emma most was truth, that kindness could return fully. The memory of that rainy night, when she chose to aid a stranger for nothing, had grown into a wave of hope filling her days. One afternoon, as she finished, a brake yob in a worn pickup, a familiar voice called from the lot. Emma looked up to see Thomas Reed standing by the entrance, a soft smile in his aged face. I wanted to check on you, he said simply, stepping in. The years on the road had carved lines of trials on his face, but his eyes gleamed with quiet pride. Emma felt gratitude swell inside her. Thomas, this place, it's transformed because of you. He shook his head. No, Emma, you transformed it. I just helped you see your strength. They spoke for a while of road life, loss, and hope, and the small deeds that mattered most. Thomas shared more about his daughter, whose spirit he saw in Emma that stormy night. The sun sank low, casting long shadows over the workshop. Thomas stood to go but paused at the door. Keep this up. You're crafting more than fixes here. You're shaping a future. As he drove off, Emma watched his truck fade down the road, her heart full. Around her, neighbors and clients gathered, their smiles and greetings proof of the community she'd helped build. Emma wiped her hands and took a deep breath, eyeing the lively workshop that once nearly closed. Now it thrived, full of promise and purpose. Sometimes, she thought, one kind act could spark a lifetime of change. Months passed since that stormy night when Emma made a simple choice, to aid a stranger for nothing. Now her small workshop was a center of action and warmth, a place where effort and kindness merged to create something greater than either alone. Emma stood by the Penn workshop door one crisp morning, watching trucks come and go, their motors humming. Like a song of renewed hope, the air smelled of foil and fresh paint, but beneath it was a deeper sense of community, connection, and purpose. Thomas Reed's gift had done more than provide tools. It had restored Emma's faith in herself. Her skills, once ignored, were now praised by drivers and townsfolk. She guided young mechanics eager to learn, sharing not just skills but the truth that kindness could open doors no tool could. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows, Emma stood where she first helped Thomas. A letter sat on the counter, this time from a local trucking group, asking her to speak at an event about goodwill in hard times. She smiled softly, recalling the storm and stranger who changed everything with one generous act. As the day ended, Emma wiped her hands and gazed at her thriving workshop. The flatbed trailer that brought her new tool stood nearby, a symbol of a turning point, of hope born from unexpected kindness. Emma knew now that sometimes the smallest deeds could echo louder than a lifetime's effort, and for her, the road ahead was no longer unsure but filled with promise.